Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you've been following the path to financial independence, well, today's the day.
It really is.
This is the deep dive on that critical turning point.
Yeah.
It's the moment we finally stop working for money. And the money, consciously, systematically, begins working for you.
That really is the perfect definition. We're moving beyond just controlling spending or building up a savings buffer.
Yep.
We're talking about a profound shift in the actual direction of your cash flow. You're going from relying completely on active, time-dependent income.
Your salary.
Your salary, exactly. And you're starting to build a steady stream of durable income that is not dependent on your time.
And we are, of course, talking about this through the framework from Tamir Khaham, the former systems engineer who created this three-stage strategy for financial independence. And for everyone following along, we are now at step 11.
We are. Step 11, which is all about acquiring that first income-generating engine. But, we have to pause for a second. It's so crucial for you, the listener, to understand. Step 11 isn't a starting point. It's only possible because of all the intense foundational work that you did before this.
We can't overstate this, can we? If you try to jump straight to buying assets, you're basically building a house with no foundation.
Absolutely. You had to go through stage 1, which was that internal shift, that psychological work of moving from, let's say, a survivor mindset.
Just reacting to things.
Right, constantly reacting to financial events, to becoming a disciplined capital manager who's proactively directing your resources. That shift is the fuel for everything.
And then stage 2 is all about building the infrastructure.
Stage 2 was very rigorous, very practical. It was about gaining total control over your cash flow, setting up consistent savings, automating your financial decisions, and this is the big one, implementing risk management.
The financial firewall.
The financial firewall. It protects the whole system.
Let's define that again, because I think it's so easy to overlook. When we talk about a financial firewall, what's its job right now as we move into step 11?
Its job is, it's twofold. First, it makes sure your current lifestyle is protected from any major disruption. You've got reserves for a job loss or a huge unexpected bill.
Right.
But second, and this is more important for this new step, it shields your new asset from being eaten up by a personal crisis.
Oh.
If you buy an income asset and then, you have a medical emergency and have to sell it right away, you failed to build resilience. The firewall protects the asset so it has a chance to actually grow.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So we've secured the base, we've built the fuel supply, that disciplined saving habit, and now we deploy that capital.
Now we deploy.
The focus shifts completely. It's no longer just about securing the present. It's about building the future.
This is the moment the machine finally begins to turn.
Okay, so let's unpack this. There's a core philosophical difference at this stage. People often confuse being wealthy, which is really just a snapshot of net worth,
A moment in time.
with being financially independent, which is a sustainable system. Tamir Khaham argues that FI, financial independence, has to come before wealth. Why is that?
The difference is all in the nature of what you own. And this distinction, it's the bedrock principle of this entire stage.
Okay.
A yielding asset is anything that consistently generates positive cash flow. Money comes in, into your pocket, month after month, without needing your active, time-dependent labor.
So you do the work up front to acquire it, and then the asset takes over the work.
Exactly. Now, you contrast that with a liability. A liability is anything that consistently takes money out of your pocket.
Negative cash flow.
Negative cash flow. And it's not just debt. It could be a luxury car that's depreciating and demands constant insurance, maintenance, fuel, or, say, a vacation home that sits empty most of the year but still needs upkeep.
So, okay, let's imagine two people. Listener A has a huge salary, a big net worth on paper, but they also have a massive house, 2 boats, and maxed out credit cards.
All liabilities.
Listener B has a more moderate salary, but owns a small portfolio of stocks and maybe a rental unit that brings in $500 a month. Who's closer to success in step 11?
Oh, listener B, without a doubt. Listener A is rich in wealth, but they're completely poor in cash flow. The second they stop working, their liabilities will just consume them.
Right.
Listener B is rich in systems. That $500, it might seem small, but it severs that dependence on the clock. And that distinction is money coming in or going out. And why? That is the single most important metric for economic freedom.
And that's the real power of this first asset, isn't it? The one you get in step 11. Even if the cash flow is tiny, it fundamentally changes your consciousness. It
Yes.
solidifies that identity change.
It does. You stop seeing money as something to just be spent, and you start seeing it as an employee you can deploy. You move from dependence to initiative.
Now, this is where it gets interesting because this is the challenge that stalls so many people. We see knowledgeable, high-income people. They've done stage 2. They have the capital, the savings habits, but they just freeze right here.
They do.
What's the biggest hurdle to starting step 11?
It's a great question, and it's the mental mistake that we call the perfection trap. The reason people freeze is they're waiting for the perfect asset.
They want a guaranteed home run before they even step up to the plate.
Exactly. They'll spend 6 months analyzing the perfect real estate market or researching the absolute lowest risk fund when they could have spent that time actually acquiring and learning from something much smaller, a simple dividend stock, for instance.
So the biggest risk at this stage is just doing nothing.
It's inaction. Tamir Khaham's background as an engineer is so key here. He always taught that you have to deploy the system first, and then you iterate and improve it.
So that 6 months of delay, waiting for the so-called perfect deal, is actually a massive hidden cost.
It's the cost of delay. If a system that could earn, say, a modest 5% takes you 6 months longer to get running, you've permanently lost that potential income. The whole principle is you gather enough data to make an intelligent first move, you deploy it, you analyze how it performs, and then you redesign. The system, just like any engineered structure, it's going to have flaws, and those flaws become the lessons for your second and third deployments.
It's about moving from analysis paralysis to conscious action. Getting that first dollar of systemic cash flow proves to your brain that the whole thing actually works.
It validates everything you did in the first 2 stages. It's your proof of concept.
So since there's no perfect asset, that brings us to the big question of options. How do you even begin to narrow down the possibilities for your first income engine?
We have to emphasize this. The choice for step 11 has to be deeply personal. Before you even look at categories, you need to look inward. You need to assess your own temperament and skills.
Right. So if I say I hate the idea of dealing with tenants and clogged toilets, maybe real estate isn't the right first move for me, no matter what the yield is.
Precisely. The choice has to be tailored to your knowledge, your available capital, the time you're willing to commit, and your personal risk level. It's a real self-assessment.
Okay, let's run through the 5 major categories from the source material, maybe contrast what they demand from you.
First up is rental real estate. This usually requires significant capital or at least access to partnerships, and it's generally pretty hands-on unless you pay for management, which of course eats into your yield.
And this was Tamir Khaham's starting point, right?
It was his initial intuitive entry. He acquired properties, often with partners, to spread the risk and leverage capital both in Israel and in the U.S. They generated really robust cash flow for him.
Okay, that definitely demands a certain temperament. What about people who'd prefer something more passive?
That brings us to category 2, capital market investments. So we're talking about specific investments in the stock market or in funds. The key here for step 11 is to shift away from purely aggressive growth stocks and toward investments focused on income. Think dividend-yielding stocks or ETFs that prioritize a steady quarterly payout. It's much more hands-off, but you have to be okay with market volatility.
Then the third option is more about leveraging business structures.
Exactly. Small businesses or partnerships. And this doesn't mean you have to go launch a risky startup.
Jill.
No. It could mean investing in or acquiring a small piece of a business that already has proven systems and reliable cash flow. You're buying a slice of a machine that's already running. The main risk there is knowing the operator and really assessing the system's longevity.
Okay, this next one is where Khaham's own story is just such a great example of scalable income.
It really is. That's intellectual property and copyrights. This is about creating something, one time a book, a song, a piece of code, that's protected and can generate income every time it's sold or used.
And the classic example.
The perfect example is the royalty income from his work as the official Hebrew translator of The Richest Man in Babylon. The work was done years ago, but the cash flow just keeps coming. It takes a huge amount of upfront creative labor, but then potentially very little maintenance.
You're trading your time for intellectual leverage. What about the modern equivalent? The new frontier?
Well, finally, the 5th category is the fast-growing field of digital assets. This covers all sorts of income-generating platforms, a niche newsletter with a subscription, a monetized YouTube channel, an automated e-commerce site. And what's really noteworthy here is that Tamir Khaham, even now at age 67, is still committed to continuous learning. He's actively exploring this field right now, looking for ways to expand his own digital activity.
I love that detail. It really reinforces that step 13, continuous learning, It isn't optional, is it? It's integrated into the whole process.
Absolutely. But look, no matter which of these you choose, the core goal for step 11 is exactly the same. Prove to yourself that you can create an income stream that permanently severs the link between your time and your money.
So what does it all mean? Let's say we've done it. We've navigated the analysis, we've moved past that perfection trap, and we acquired our first imperfect asset. Is the journey over? Are we financially independent now?
And crucially, the answer is no. Not yet. Step 11 isn't the final step. It's the opening act of stage 3, growth and economic freedom.
Okay.
That first asset is so powerful, not because of the amount of money it makes, but because it proves the system works. It gives you the confidence in that initial little bit of excess cash flow to keep going, to build momentum.
So it's the launch of the rocket, not the arrival at the destination.
Right.
The real goal of stage 3 is replication and scale.
Precisely. And before we really detail that next phase, as responsible guides in this deep dive, we really have to deliver an essential clarification. The information in this deep dive is intended purely for financial education. It does not constitute investment advice or financial planning or any kind of guarantee of returns or income. All financial actions involve risk, and every decision must be thoroughly evaluated according to your personal circumstances, your risk tolerance, and your current capital.
Okay. With that necessary perspective established, let's look ahead. If step 11 is the launch, what's the flight plan for the rest of stage 3?
The next steps are all about systematic replication and expansion. You don't just stop at one engine. You start scaling, you start building additional assets that align with your growing knowledge and your growing capital.
And that's what leads to the actual outcome.
That's what leads to the functional outcome of financial independence, which is that gradual move from work you must do for a paycheck to work you do by preference for meaning or just for enjoyment.
And we keep coming back to step 13, running right alongside it all.
The essential parallel commitment to continuous learning. Whether it's Tamir Khaham studying digital assets at 67 or you learning the nuances of a stock portfolio, that process can never stop. It's what keeps your whole system robust and adaptable in a changing world.
So the single most important takeaway from this whole discussion isn't really which asset you choose. It's not about real estate versus IP.
No.
It's the shift in identity and the commitment to action that it cements. It's the move from waiting for the certainty of perfection, which is a fantasy, to taking deliberate, conscious action from a solid foundation.
It's the moment of becoming an owner instead of just dreaming about ownership.
So think about it. What could your first imperfect asset look like? It doesn't have to be massive. It just has to be functional. What small system could you deploy now, knowing you have that foundation of resilience underneath you that starts to generate that first trickle of systemic cash flow?
We've built the foundation, we've secured the perimeter, and now we have deployed the first engine. And that initial success, that's what powers everything that comes next.
Join us for the next deep dive. We're going to focus entirely on the mechanics of scaling, how to strategically replicate and scale these new income streams, building that compounding stability, and accelerating your journey toward true economic freedom.
Thank you for diving deep with us.
See you next time.